I think I got this working. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Sandwich Corner. I don't have my iPad on me, so the regular music isn't available, so we're gonna go with this one. I hope you're doing well out there. My name's Dave Medina. You know me as Dave Eating a Sandwich on many different platforms, except for one key one, because I quit it like about a month ago. I'm off Twitter, so in case you weren't up to speed on that, and you're wondering, how come Dave hasn't tweeted in like a month or something? I quit. I quit the Twitter. Like I just deleted it. I backed up all the tweets I had. For those of you who are still on the platform or X or whatever it's called now, I hope the experience goes well for you. But I figured I was kind of getting shearing for me anyway, so I was kind of so. If you want to look for me for like a direct contact, that you can go for Threads. I'll be there, or Instagram, or Discord. Any of those will be fine. So yeah, let's talk some football. Well, we have John joining us tonight. We also have Andy, who hopefully will join us later in the program. So much to talk about. I mean, really exciting times in Boulder, even though they got hammered by Oregon, and exciting times in the entire Pac-12. They look so good. It's just a shame that this is the last season of the Pac-12. Unbelievable. NFL not so great. But let's get into the scenarios. We're going to chat about all the games. We're going to recap what happened. Really great thriller with Ohio State and Notre Dame. And we'll look ahead to the week of action in college. Same thing for the NFL. If we have some quick hitters from good lines, we'll give them to you. So let's go say hi to our good friend, and let's bring him in now. It's been a minute, John. It's week 5, but it's nice to have you back on the show for our first regular season show of the year. How's it going, John?
Yeah, what's up, Dave? It's been a while. In between all of us with our different schedules, and we haven't had a show in a little bit. So yeah, great to be back. It's been an interesting start to the season for both NFL and pro. So yeah, let's dive into it.
Let's do it. Friends, it has been a really, and Saturday was a really, really good day of football. We saw the schedule before it started, before it all went down, and like, man, every time slot has a very good game in it, and basically it lived up to the hype, and especially in the beginning when you had Florida State against Clemson. Like, it was a thriller to the end. Obviously, a lot of miscues on both sides towards the end of the game, but I mean, the last week's action segment is going to be great. So, John, I'll give it to you first. You can start there and just roll it on through the rest of the evening, including as the aforementioned Notre Dame game, and the USC, getting into a little bit of trouble, but not that much, against Arizona State, and everything in between.
Yeah, the start of the day, Clemson and Florida State, as you mentioned. I mean, that was probably the best game of the well, that and the Ohio State game, I guess, were the two, most entertaining games of the day in terms of like drama at the end. Clemson really should have won that game. They moved the ball up and down the field basically the entire time, and they had a sack fumble that was returned for a touchdown. That ended up being the difference in the game. As Florida State wins in overtime, but just some horrible play calling by Clemson towards the end of the game. I don't know if that's obviously Dabo Sweeney's not calling the plays. He brought in Garrett Riley from TCU, so he's the offensive coordinator. But they've been gashing them with Shipley all day, and on 3rd and 1, they're calling like a bubble screen, like almost behind the line of scrimmage. It's just bizarre. Why aren't you handing him the ball 2 times? Just terrible job there at the end with the play calling. And then they bring on their kicker, who was he was working in finance in New York City. Like, I guess he was like a part-time grad student or something, and they didn't have their previous kicker. So they bring this kid in, and like, you feel bad for him, but like, he can't even make a 30-yarder to, take the lead with a minute left, and just a brutal loss by Clemson. And essentially, I mean, they're done for the national picture, and probably the ACC as well, because they have 2 losses, and they would have to have every other team have more than 2 losses, and then they certainly wouldn't have the tiebreaker over Florida State or Duke at this point. So that was just a really bad loss by Clemson. And Florida State, they stay in the picture. That doesn't have to be pretty at this point when they're ranked number 3 in the country. So just survive and move on for them at this stage. So that was the game that kind of kicked off the day. And then the night game there with Notre Dame and Ohio State. Now, I did miss most of the second half of this. I did see the end, obviously, where, um, obviously Ohio State has the drive at the end of the game. They converted on some third and longs. They get down to the end, and they score the touchdown with just a few seconds left, and Notre Dame has 10 players on the field for it. It's just like, at that point, take the penalty, like someone jump off sides and just like, it's a half a yard at that point. And they didn't do it, and Ohio State gets the win. I mean, just as dumb was Ryan Day kicking the extra point, because the only way the game gets tied at that point is if it's blocked and returned for the 2-pointer. I guess he wasn't considering that in his mind, but hey, it's a 1 in 1,000 chance, I guess, but still probably a higher probability than doing anything with the kickoff or like on a crazy lateral play or something. But still, Ohio State wins, and of course the message afterwards, the first thing out of his mouth, "Where's Lou Holtz? I gotta talk to Lou Holtz."
All the
Like,
people.
what a clown this guy's. And like, you have to say, "Oh yeah, we're tough," like you're clearly not. Like you're just not. I mean, I remember the last 2 times they played Michigan. Like Michigan clearly just like ran through them every single, both times. And it might happen again this year. We'll see. If he loses 3 in a row to Michigan, like we're gonna have to take back the tough card there from old Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. But yeah, they've been struggling. Their offense, especially, have been struggling. I mean, they're only one game where they really just kind of exploded for points was against Western Kentucky, who has just a hideous defense. Otherwise, it certainly hasn't been like the Buckeyes' offenses of the past, but their defense has been carrying them. Um, as evident in this game, where like Notre Dame had been on a roll, and granted they hadn't played great competition, but still Sam Hartman had been really impressive, and they completely shut him down. So again, just you got to survive and move on, and that's what Ohio State did, and they're in the driver's seat, or until they have to play like Michigan, basically. That's what's going to come down to it. And Penn State too, who's been really impressive, like we talked about in the previous shows. It's basically like a three team race. I guess we'll touch on a few other games. A lot of people were hyping up Colorado, but I mean, the spread was 3 touchdowns. So, like, what was anybody really expecting out of that game? Maybe a little better than 35-0 or whatever it was at halftime for sure, but still, like, Oregon was a big favorite for a reason. Like, the fact that Colorado even has 3 wins to begin with is remarkable considering where they were last year, just a complete dumpster fire. So, if Deion can get them to even like 5 wins or 6 wins, like that's just amazing compared to where they were last year. So it's starting to show as they get into the meat of the schedule. And like you said, Dave, the Pac-12 is just unbelievable this year.
Yeah.
USC, Oregon State, Utah, UCLA, Washington, it just looks unstoppable with Penix and all those receivers. So the conference is certainly going out with a bang. Oregon State and Washington State, the 2 remaining members of the Pac-2, they played a hell of a game on Saturday, and Washington State got the win as the 3-point dog. But I think it's going to be like this all year. Like these teams are going to beat up on each other. And like Utah plays Oregon State this week in Corvallis. Like I definitely like Oregon State in that matchup for sure. There's not going to be a lot of scoring, but I think Oregon State is probably the play there. But just in general, like these teams are all going to beat up on each other. So I hope one of them at least like comes from the pack and finishes the year with 1 loss. But if there's any year for the Pac-12 to finally get that team in the college football playoff, I know they had it with Oregon, I believe, the first year, but it's got to be this year to get it in and finally, I guess break that streak that they've had been, because some of these other leagues are down.
Yeah.
The SEC is not as strong compared to previous years. The Big 12, I don't know. We'll see. Everyone claimed Texas was back after beating Alabama. Well, maybe Alabama's not quite as good as we thought after they played USF 17-3 last week.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty rough. And the ACC is probably going to be just like Florida State loses. I don't know if they're going to be in contention because the rest of the league is pretty down. So definitely potential for the Pac-12 this year to get in the mix. I guess back to Saturday. the only other game to mention was, like you said, Dave, USC kind of struggled with Arizona State, but that's kind of USC's thing. Like they're going to give up a lot of points, but they're just going to outscore teams at this point. I mean, their offense is just so good, and Caleb Williams is so good that that's what they do. And like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Colorado like hang with them, but they'll just like this Saturday, USC will just outscore them essentially. Like they'll win like 45-30 or something. That's basically what happened against Arizona State. So let's see if there's any other of those. Oh yeah, the kind of I guess the other big matchup was Ole Miss Alabama. Lane Kiffin talking shit all week, and then Saban kind of figured it out in the second half with got back to the basics of just like running the ball, and they're playing great defense. And Milroe's clearly the better quarterback to play, and like has the confidence of the team. I don't know what the heck was going on in that USF game. There's got to be another story behind that why he was benched, but um, they're still undefeated. So as long as they are, they're going to be in contention. And then, like I mentioned, Utah had a nice win over UCLA. Pretty defensive game, only 14-7. I mean, that Utah defense is just crazy. I mean, they made Dante Moore look silly. Pick six on the first pass of the game. So, yeah, that was a good matchup there in the Pac-12. So, yeah, that's all I have to mention in terms. I mean, we could talk about a lot of different games here, but not all of them are very very meaningful. So, you want to share some of your thoughts on the action or ask me about another game in particular, I'd be happy to mention it.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Georgia. I mean, Georgia really looked very lackluster, and they've been all season, and
Yeah.
kind of more of the same last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the South Carolina game was pretty shocking. That was a couple weeks ago. They were really struggled with them, and this past weekend, I mean, they played UAB. I mean, again, like you're not really expecting that. Like Georgia's schedule is just like, when are they going to play like a real team? Like it doesn't add up here. Like I know like South Carolina's an SEC team, but it's just like, okay, like they're not going to be playing like Alabama or LSU or even Texas A&M looks improved, although they just lost their starting quarterback. So
Yeah.
we'll see about that. But I mean, Florida looks a little improved, so I guess they play them in the large cocktail party. Tennessee they're okay, but as we talked about, Dave, they were going to take a little bit of a step back without
You
Hendon Hooker.
you called
and
that.
We saw that,
Yeah.
yeah, and we saw that at the in the Florida game. So not too many like games where they're going to be like really really tested here
Yeah.
until maybe the title game. So they can kind of sleepwalk through this and just they're going to be up there.
Yeah.
So and they just gotta it's like a 2-game season basically. They go at Tennessee like we talked about. They go at Tennessee and then like the SEC championship game. That's basically it.
Pretty much. Florida's an interesting case. Like I knew they were going to have a letdown, and they surely did. Like their offense really didn't do much at all against Charlotte.
Yeah, the fighting Biff Bogies. What that guy? He's crazy. But hey, they played hard, and that was a pretty big letdown spot, and they just kind of got through it. It was a final score of 21-7 or something like that. So yeah, it was just a kind of a win and move on game, and they got Kentucky for SEC play this week, so they were clearly getting ready for that game.
What's your take on Kentucky so far? Because they've been they're undefeated too, and it's I haven't really seen them much. I mean, what do you think of them?
Well, it's because of their schedule. They played 2 MAC teams, Eastern Kentucky and Vanderbilt. So like you really don't know anything about them just yet. So
okay,
they play home to Florida this week, so that'll be the first kind of litmus test of where they are as a group. I mean, just going by the stats, like Devin Leary has played well, but again, like the competition hasn't been great. Like I thought that was a good spot for Vandy to cover potentially, and they are bad.
Oh, that stinks. Yeah, because everybody thought that Vandy was starting to like make some noise, and they have really fallen on hard times recently. I've noticed that too.
I saw them at the game against UNLV in Vegas. Oh my goodness, it was a wild game. I mean, they lost 40-37, but like it was back and forth, and like there's a bunch of turnovers, and like you thought each team was going to win the game at the end, and then Vanderbilt missed like a 30-yard field goal, and UNLV goes right down the field, and then they got a field goal of their own as time expired. It was crazy, but yeah, the Vanderbilt people like that were kind of sitting in my section, they were just like losing their minds. Like, how can we lose to this shit team? But hey, like they certainly deserved it the way they played.
Absolutely. Maybe can comment a couple other things. So yeah, Ryan Day is tough to take. Like he's out there saying like no one will question. Yeah, you can't question me. I'm like, yes, I can. Your play calling stinks. Like it's so bad. Like it's so frustrating to see that team at the end of a game. They just cannot make. They cannot. They're so terrible at clock management. Like it's just such a horribly coach team when it comes to execution. Like you said, like their offense is extremely underwhelming. It's just one of those things. It's like kind of like Georgia. It's like they're gonna have enough wins to like win the Big Ten, and if they, it's an interesting comment you made that you think that Michigan's gonna steamroll them. That's a very interesting comment. That'll be interesting to see. I definitely would take Michigan in that matchup. We're looking way ahead, but like I would totally take Michigan in that game.
Well, Penn State might steamroll them too. I mean, they're looking really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, granted they played Iowa, who couldn't score. Like there was no defenders on the field, but granted. I mean, that was rough. I think I was looking at the box score. Iowa had like 75 yards and like 4 first downs. Like, how can it be this bad year after year after year at Iowa with their offense? And I don't know. Like, I know that like Brian Ferentz has to hit 25 points per game to get like some kind of contract extension or maybe like keep his job. And they got set back with this last game. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I was gonna say like. It looked like their offense was a little better this year. Like it was not terrible. It was like less than terrible. Like not good, but like better. And then that happened.
Yeah, that was just completely embarrassing.
Yeah.
On Saturday, like just like you can't even get more than 4 first downs in like a conference game. Like that's really bad.
I don't understand why CBS moved their top team to that game. That startles me. Like I thought for sure they were going to be the Bama game.
They must be getting ready for like the transition next year, so they're kind of like preparing viewers for it. That's the only thing I can think of at this point.
Well, it's prime time too, but it's just kind of like, really, guys? Like you wanted to watch an Iowa, but you're right. That's kind of that's the future of CBS college football. Yeah. It's kind of
and NBC getting all these just hideous Big Ten games. Like it's just there's 3 teams that are worth anything, like Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. If you don't have them, you have like nothing. So like I think we're getting like Illinois, Purdue this weekend, or I don't even know. Like it's a shit game.
Yeah, it really is.
So I guess that's why like okay, you add USC, Washington, UCLA, and Oregon. I guess you get some more interesting matchups. But like if those teams can't play each other every week, so like you're gonna get your UCLA Iowa game. Like I don't think anyone's really tuning into that. It's just sad, like we said. Like the Pac-12, like they're certainly going out with a bang this year. So that I'm glad for that at least.
I am too. Staying in the Pac-12, I was really disappointed in Utah's offense. Like I was shocked. Like their first touchdown was on the very I feel like it was the first play from scrimmage for UCLA. Yeah. It was a pick 6 from Utah. They scored 1 touchdown the rest of the entire game. That's really disappointing. At home, like I know.
Yeah, well. Cam Rising is still out.
Yeah, right.
They've been playing games every week, like whether he's playing or not. Clearly, he's like still like not ready to play. Mm-hmm. And their defense is just carrying them. But if Rising is still out, like I said, like I think they're going to take a loss at Oregon State this Friday night. Like I think that's a.
Oh, you're calling for the loss? I didn't catch that. Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wow. I'm calling for Oregon State to win that one on Friday.
Yeah, they're favored too. You're right. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. That's a really big. I was just going to ask you that. Like, do you think so? Do you feel like that's going to be that he's not? Oh, and he's here. It's nice. But I'll give it to you to answer this. But do you think that Cam will? Are you feeling like it's more likely he will not play this game?
I'm thinking no, just by the way that they play these games. But who knows? Like he could. Like I remember last year, like everyone thought, like there was no word about him being injured or anything, and like 5 minutes before the game, it was like, oh, Cam Rising's not playing. So Whittingham plays these games with the quarterback. Honestly, even if he plays, he's probably not 100%. And Oregon State's defense is tremendous, and they have that great home field advantage. And coming off a loss against Washington State, I think they're going to be ready to go. And I like them, Rising or not. Like I'll lay the 3.5 with Oregon State. So. I like it. Let's go ahead and bring Andy to the program. Just give me a second here to just push all the buttons to make that happen. By the way, for what it's worth, I did look at that spread. I did like Washington State in that game too. I'm like, this is a good spot for the home team here. They're getting points at home. Like it made a lot of sense.
All right, Andy in Seattle is joining us on the program. Andy, it's so good to see you again. How's it going? Let's see if Andy's ready. Oh, Andy's not ready yet. Okay. Andy should be ready any moment now. Let me just correct a thing over here, and we'll go ahead and bring in our friend. What up, Andy? It's been a minute. How you been?
Oh yeah, it's been a minute. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty angry about certain bets, certain things, but we're here. We're here.
Wait, what do you want tonight though? Like, there's no football. Like, is it
Well, the
baseball?
fucking Red Sox are a bunch of fucking things I can't say, but I will. I won't be that derogatory, but I kind of am. Those fucking pieces of shit, those frugal losers. Uh, I had a bet with them to win more than 78 and a half games, so that means they got to go 79 and 83. They were 72 and 66. They were 69 and 60, and
Oh
these
man.
fucking losers, those fucking losers have played September worse than, I don't know. Some people like to argue about 12 cents at Chinese restaurants, but they are just an absolute anchor. They are an absolute
Oh, that's
anchor.
rough.
They're not
Yeah.
gonna fucking get to 79-83. They're a bunch of fucking losers and chain bloom. They have the stench of chain bloom on their everywhere. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pissed because all they had to do was play. All they had to do was win 7 out of their last 24 ball games through 138 games of the year. That's Oakland A's pace, and they're not. They're playing
Really?
worse than.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
they're
Is it too late
yeah.
now, or is it like is it?
No, they gotta go. They gotta go 3-1 in their last
Oh
4, and
boy,
that's not gonna happen.
that was
That's
rough.
not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a bunch of losers. They're a bunch of bums. And if anyone defends Chain Bloom, they're bums too. So,
Yeah.
but college football's fun. NFL's fun. Yeah, and we need the Mariners to win tonight too. So
Okay.
there's a lot. And then we're rooting for Europe in the Ryder Cup. I'm thinking
I'm
John
not
is.
surprised that even a little bit. We were talking about that in our last golf show. We were all in on Europe, right? So like let's go.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. This U.S. team is just really tough to take. Yeah,
Yeah.
can't do it.
Can't disagree. Can't disagree. Andy, we just recapped the college segment, but we'd love to give it to you for some quick hitters in last week's college action.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, I didn't get to watch as much as I thought. I had my mom visiting in town, so I had to kind of be present. Which kind of, what are you gonna do? You got one mother, although now I guess technically you could have. But anyway, so I didn't get to watch as much football as I thought I would or would have if I didn't have company in the mix. But I watched the entire Florida State Clemson game. Uh, John was talking to John off the program, obviously, and he took Clemson, and like I hate Dabo, so I could not take Clemson. But after watching that game, I neither team arguably deserved to win. I mean, I don't know why Clemson didn't just stick with like their All American kicker. I know he had been struggling, but this idea to bring in this guy that really hadn't kicked before, that was like studying to become a LT finance guy, and have him kick instead was that obviously backfired. No one wanted to win at the end of regulation. The play calling all throughout the second half was suspect on both sides, and obviously in overtime, when Clemson had 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, and that 3rd and 1 play, just you're overthinking it, Dabo. So uh, Florida State, I know this program has been high on, or, we've known the Florida State coach back when he was the Memphis coach, and, he has some warts, but he has Florida State in position to be in position. Their secondary can be attacked, though, as John mentioned off the program. Like the fact that BC was going up and down the field, they're going to have to shore that up. But Florida State's got some great receivers, and they play in a pretty lousy conference. So as long they've already taken care of business at Clemson, and if they beat Florida in the Swamp Thanksgiving weekend, like they should be in the playoff mix, in 2 months' time. That was a very good game. That Ohio State Notre Dame game. I had Ohio State -3, so that felt like kissing your cousin because they were up 10. They had control of that game. I tell you what killed them, even though they ended up winning that game, that stupid fat offensive lineman flopping on a 10-yard gain that basically took the wind out of your sails. You guys remember that play, but the offensive lineman taking a flop and wiping out a first down and instead sending them back 15 yards basically gave Notre Dame the momentum that they so desperately needed all throughout that game. And then, classic Ohio State, classic Notre Dame not being able to get, finish, and Ohio State wins on the last play of the game. Now, I don't know if our friend, a couple quickies, is out there trying to find a way for Notre Dame to somehow get into that playoff. I know Mike's not on the program tonight, but all kidding aside, I don't think Notre Dame has any chance to get in the playoff at this point. I think their schedule's too soft, and there's too many teams that are currently undefeated, so they'd have to leapfrog a bunch. Alabama, they're saying Saban is just going to focus on his defense and just try to win ugly. That was I don't know what you want to call it. Not a revenge game, but obviously there's no love lost between Lane and Nick. So I did take Alabama in that game. So we were fortunate there. I don't think Penn State deserves any sort of talk, but I don't know why I was such a fool to take Iowa getting the 14.5, and Iowa does what Iowa does. They don't score. And James Franklin does what he does. But I can't. I just wait for whenever Penn State loses a game because I can't stand James Franklin. Let's see. Let me pull up what other stuff. I'm sure John already glossed over the highlights. Very disappointing effort from your USC school, though, Dave.
Yeah, saw it coming.
I did not see it coming because they had been running it up on everyone. Even we haven't had a show in a while, so Dave Lane, Lincoln Riley's very tough to take. I know he's probably doing it for style points, but in week 0, throwing it on the last the last drive of the game against San Jose State just to get this backup quarterback. They were literally throwing the ball with less than a minute left, and San Jose State was just barely trying to cover it. And I'm sure John
I think I was on that. I was mad too.
Riley, absolute piece of shit. And he called. So eventually they turned it over on downs, and they called a timeout because San Jose State was going to throw a Hail Mary, and Lincoln Riley called a timeout just so he could get his Hail Mary defense in. I mean, would you please? That's tough to take. So, But I know they have just been covering and just absolutely pulverizing these teams. And so, and Arizona State had looked so bad against Fresno State the week before. They got goose egg. So I'm like, I'm going to take USC because they're going to have style points. And that there was a clip earlier in the week of the Arizona State coach just so out of his element, just doing this ooga booga routine, almost like Herm Edwards, you play to win the game, but he was like, if you're not coaching to win the game, then why are you out here? And I'm just like, this guy looks out of his element. But I guess Arizona State was doing all sorts of trick plays, halfback passes, and getting away with it. And so, they hung on and they covered, obviously. But what was I trying to say? So, USC, they did not look impressive. And, but I do think they'll have their way with Colorado. I know it's like it'll be a 9 a.m. start California time for them because they're playing it 10 o'clock Boulder time for the noon East Coast window. And we could talk about Pac-12 at some point too. I know I'm just kind of all over the place, but all these people that are complaining about, why is Washington playing at 7:30? Like, get used to these 7:30 starts. What do you think? If it's USC UW Pac or USC UW Big Ten in 2025, they're playing that game, 10:30 East Coast time. The whole point of this Big Ten situation, poaching all these West Coast teams, is so they can have their product on from 12 noon on a Saturday to 1 a.m. Sunday early morning. So you're going to have your traditional Northwestern Maryland noon games, and you're going to have Washington, USC. Those games are playing at night. and if I'm wrong, funhouse me. But those games are going to be on at night, so the Big Ten can have their product basically all day on Saturday. That's just my opinion. But there's another game. Oh yeah, Oregon State, Washington State. I'm rooting for both those schools just because it's like Washington State versus everyone else, Oregon State versus everyone else, because they got left out of the Big 12, Pac-12 expansion. And I did take Oregon, giving the 21 to Colorado. It's not like I hate Dion, but those games, like handicappers with these Colorado games, have just been out of control. Like 1 week they're getting 21, 1 week they're giving 23, the next week they're getting 21, and I haven't even looked at the USC line. So, I didn't think Colorado was gonna go 10-2 or 11-1 or even 9-3, but they'll probably get to 7-5 and get to a bowl game. And Dion's doing his thing. I kind of like what Dion does because he's upsetting like the plods of the world, like college sport should be clean. It's never been clean. So like Dion's just kind of taking advantage of the current situation that we're in. And Liberty did what Liberty needs to do. That's, neither here nor there, but we're just kind of looking for a team from the non-power conferences to rise. And I don't know who it's going to be. And Wyoming won a crazy game again, shades of that Texas Tech game. It was a good week.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, sorry if I'm redundant or just kind of going everywhere, but I really didn't know what you guys were talking about.
No worries.
It's crazy that we're already, I know September 30th is still September, but it's almost like the first week of October. But, teams are going to be like, a third to 38% done with their season. It's just so crazy how fast the college season goes.
Really
does. Say it every year, but it's true.
Oh, 100%. No, I think you've hit on pretty much everything there, Annie. I love it. Texas was under. Wait, am I in the right spot? No, let's not.
Texas killed Baylor.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. No, I'm thinking a week earlier when they were hanging.
I'm an idiot. Like Wyoming, that past week was like one of the best bets of the week, and like I only put like a unit on it because they were coming off that Bama game, and like Wyoming is a good team. Like they have a really good defense, so you knew they would be able to just kind of hang around for a bit. And I think it was like 10-10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
It was wild.
So I messed up not going heavier on that game, but. Yeah, we'll see about Texas. Texas and I think Oklahoma's kind of fraudulent too. So there's definitely room for somewhere in the Big 12 to kind of rise up. I guess that's another game we didn't touch on, like Oklahoma, Cincinnati. Now I had Cincinnati plus 14, so I got a push on it. But like they completely messed up in the red zone like multiple times. Like they could have easily at least had that game tied. Oklahoma had been beating up on Arkansas State is making Butch Jones cry on the sideline. It's like 73-0. They're beating up on Tulsa, who's just a horrible team. The one like okay team they played was SMU, and it was a game in the fourth quarter. And then this Cincinnati game wasn't impressive at all. So I'm still holding back on both Texas and Oklahoma. So we'll see maybe if Kansas State can get up in the mix again. They seem like they have a solid team again for this year. So the Big 12 race will be interesting for sure. And one other thing I'll mention, so we usually have the action at November. Well, next week we start the Conference USA action on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. So we're going to get some interesting matchups. If you haven't been following Sam Houston State, they're the new team to the FBS this year. Well, they've scored 1 touchdown in 3 games. They scored 0, 3, and then 7 points so far this year. So that's going to be a fun watch to see them on national TV over the next month.
One last question before we go to this week's action. I've been told that Ohio is a wagon this year. Are you buying into the Ohio as a wagon?
Yeah, I don't know if wagon. John can go first.
Yeah, I'm not going to say wagon. I mean, they're a good team because if they were a wagon, they would have won at San Diego State in week 0. That game annoys the hell out of me. Like, I know Rourke got hurt, but still, that San Diego State team is not good, and they should have been able to hang with them. Like, I know they beat Iowa State, but Iowa State is, they're really down because the gambling thing, and they got they lost a bunch of players, and Campbell's a buffoon. So I'm not counting that as a great win. So
Yeah.
yes and no. Like, yeah, they're a good team, but I'm not going to classify them as like a wagon just yet.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, wagon is too high of a term to give them. I would say they are like, I don't know how to describe them. They're definitely not as enticing and sexy as UTSA has been in the last 2 years.
Right.
This year not included because Frank Martin is obviously banged up. But they're not as sexy as Coastal Carolina has been with Grayson McCall. But the Rourke family is strong in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very bitter with that week 0 game, San Diego State. They should have won that game even with the backup. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but Rourke, like they have no excuse not to dominate Maction for the next, 7 weeks or so. Hey, John, do you already have a money line parlay with Jacksonville State in Western Kentucky tomorrow?
No, it's Jacksonville and Sam Houston tomorrow, so that's
right.
Be fun.
So, but I think Western Kentucky is also playing.
Oh yeah, they're playing. They're playing Middle Tennessee. Yeah, so we get an early preview of like all the CUSA games basically.
Ooh.
And Dave, I guess to like wagon would be Washington. Like they're a wagon, right?
Yeah, that's wagon all over. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. They have killed everybody. I'm so impressed with that team.
So Washington, you have to actually sweat out that cover at the end because they almost like they scored too many points in the first half. Because in the first quarter they got an offensive touchdown, a special teams touchdown, and a defensive touchdown, and then so Penix didn't even play in the second half, and Cal basically was at the Washington. They were in the red zone with like 20 seconds left, and they were just running it. And the Washington had like their third string defense. I'm like, this is gonna be a terrible beat. And then, but Cal, they didn't try to cover. Like they could have probably called the timeout and run the cover play, but they did. Some other coaches would have, but they didn't. But that was way too much of a sweat.
I see.
For what it was.
How much was that line again? It was like in the 30s, right? Like 30 or
20, 20 and a half.
Oh, okay, 20 and a half. Okay. Yeah, I guess I did get it close. I didn't realize that. Okay. All right, so let's go with this week's action. We have brand new slides for this season. I'm very excited. So let's take a look. Let me just cue these up, and then we'll be ready to go. Give me a second here. And new slide. Check it out. So here's our schedule for this weekend. I mean, and it kicks off with a bang. Like John made a reference to this earlier in the program. We have Oregon versus Oregon and Utah versus Oregon State, and John's already calling for the outright win for outright upset for Oregon State. So that's an interesting one to track. We have USC versus Colorado, which really shouldn't be a featured game, but because it's prime and because of how they've started, it's going to be a really fun spectacle. It'll be a really great setup. It's a really early kickoff. In Denver, it's only going to be 10 a.m. So it's going to be, I think they'll be bringing it anyway, but I do think that's a very interesting spot for Fox. I like the call anyway. We're going to see. By the way, the line of that game is like 21.5 for USC is giving 21.5 in that one. I put Georgia-Auburn in there because Georgia has just not looked good this year yet, and I'm very curious to see if they're going to be able to take care of business there at Jordan-Hare. Like, that's a really interesting call. Number 24 versus number 3 Texas. Kind of the same scenario. I wonder which team's going to step up over here. And then Notre Dame, after coming off a loss, can they somehow manage to beat Duke on the road? Duke already had the outright win over Clemson to start the year, so they've had some quality wins to begin the season already. So these are some very fascinating matchups, and I'm sure there's other things you guys will want to get into as well. But let's go back to John. What do you think about the featured games this week? John, do I have you?
Oh, sorry, my internet's like going in and out. So
okay.
My apologies if you can't hear or get what I'm saying. Yeah, so I saw your list, Dave. So yeah, I called for the outright upset with Oregon State. I'll stick by that prediction. I just think it's a great spot for them. Rising or no rising, like Utah's offense has not been great. Oregon State's just dominant at home. Like I'm just, I don't know how many points are going to be scored. Like the under is probably a good bet too. This will probably be like a 20-10 game, 17-10. Like Oregon State, like just take it. Like I'll lay the 3.5, maybe parlay the money line with something else you like, but I'm going to take Oregon State in this matchup. USC Colorado, Um, I don't know. I could see this playing out similar to kind of like the Arizona State game. Like I kind of said before, like Colorado will score enough to hang around and like get a cover. Like the back door will be wide open in this one for sure. So my inclination with this game would be to take Colorado getting the 21.5 points. I mean, Arizona State the week before had 8 turnovers. Like Drew Pine looked like he could not play quarterback at all against Fresno, and he looked pretty competent against USC. So, like, I think Shadur Sanders can at least put up some points here and stay within the numbers. So, I'll take Colorado there with the spread. Georgia, I think I actually probably roll Auburn. I mean, Auburn does not have an offense or a quarterback at this point. It's going to take Hugh Freeze a little bit of time, but they're not like they almost lost at Cal. Like they should have lost to Cal a couple weeks ago. They really don't have much of an attack. I know Georgia has been kind of struggling on offense. It's kind of funny. Like you wouldn't have thought. Like obviously C.J. Stroud was a top pick, so you can see why like Ohio State production is down a little bit with McCord. But you would have never thought that Georgia was like missing Stetson Bennett, but clearly they are at this point. Like Beck hasn't, they haven't been like quite as explosive on offense as they were, but they're making enough, they're doing enough to win. But yeah, I think they'll just use their defense and just maybe they'll win this game like 24-0 or something against Auburn. Like I don't think it'll be much of a game. So we'll take them to cover. Yeah, Kansas and Texas is really interesting. Like Kansas's offense can play with anybody in the country, in my opinion. But the problem is they have to play defense too. So I think this is probably a good over bet. I know Texas, like we said, I'm still not quite sold on them, but not quite sure about the spread. I think Texas will win, but I think there'll be a decent amount of points in this game. I don't know. That's the games on your list. Like this is the one that like I'm not the most sure of. I could see it going
Mhm.
either way. If I had to pick, I'd probably take Kansas with the points, just because of their program and like their offense that they have, but not entirely sure here. And then your last game, I mean, you got to fade Notre Dame coming after that game against Ohio State. Like laying 5.5 on the road, like Duke is a really solid team. Now, granted, they beat up on my poor Huskies are not having a great season. They really beat the shit out of them, but still, like they're just very impressive on defense. Like Riley Leonard is going to be one of the top quarterbacks taken in the draft next year. They're just a solid team, and you saw it the opening night against Clemson. So yeah, give me Duke plus 5.5 at home all day long. I'll take that. So that's your featured list. I mean, I guess I'll point out a couple other games here. So yeah, we mentioned the thrilling slate tomorrow night should be fun. So we got Temple and Tulsa, Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky, and Jacksonville State and Sam Houston. So if you don't want to watch the Packers and Lions, you can have some college football on. Me, I'll try to watch. Obviously, as a Green Bay fan, I'll be more focused on the NFL game, but I'll be getting a little piece of all those games. So we'll try to find some winners with those. Friday night schedule is great. Like we mentioned, the Utah Oregon State game, but you also have Louisville at NC State, Louisiana Tech at UTEP for another great Conference USA matchup, and I think there's a Mountain West game as well. It's no, another Big 12, Cincinnati BYU. So hey, that is a great Friday night schedule of college football. So we are there for all four of those games. Yeah, and then on Saturday, a couple other games I guess to point out. Texas A&M and Arkansas does their usual neutral site game at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Arkansas hasn't been very good, but they just hung with LSU, and now the news today that Wegman is missing the year for Texas A&M. It leads me to believe I might want to go with Arkansas getting the points here. I feel like these two teams play crazy games in that stadium every year, so maybe we'll ride with Arkansas +6 there. We mentioned Florida, Kentucky. That's like a pure toss-up game. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, Kentucky hasn't played anybody. Yeah, Clemson at Syracuse, but Syracuse actually has looked really good. Like, give me the excuse at home, getting the points. Like, Clemson's going to be just devastated after that loss. And Syracuse has always given them problems, even when they were good.
Yep.
Syracuse has beaten them like in that dome. So We'll stick with that trend. I'll go with Clemson. I'm sorry, Syracuse. They're getting points. We mentioned Texas and Kansas. UCF, their first ever Big 12 home game, they're laying 11.5 to Baylor, who just looks like a complete dumpster fire right now. So I'll probably lay the points there with Malzahn to run up the score. Hopefully Plumlee's back, but their backup seems to be competent enough. Like they were with Kansas State for most of the game last week. So we'll probably lay that with UCF. We talked about Georgia and Auburn. Boise State and Memphis is kind of an interesting group of five matchup. I'll take Memphis at home. I don't not like this Boise team at all. So we'll lay the points there with Memphis at home. LSU at Ole Miss. Now this is a very interesting game because LSU's defense has been very, very poor this year, and Ole Miss coming off that Bama loss. LSU minus 2.5. That feels like such a trap line. Like I do not know what to do with this game. Maybe the over. It's high. It's 67, but I don't see how either defense is going to stop these offenses. Honestly, but I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. But that's a tricky game.
Yeah.
We talked about Notre Dame and Duke. Alabama on the road at Mississippi State laying 14.5.
It's tricky.
I know Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I know Mississippi State is down this year, but can we really trust Alabama right now laying 14.5 on the road? Like I can't do it. I can't get there. And then Washington laying 19.5 at Arizona. I'll probably take the home dog there too. Like I know Washington's been steamrolling these teams, but Arizona's been solid. Like Jaden DeLauro, they got something building there. So I'll probably take the points there with the home dog. There's a bunch of other games that we could mention, like conference play starts for a bunch of leagues this week, like the MAC, get some action and Saturday action, some other Big 12 games. So any other games that you want some thoughts on, I'll give you one other play. It will be a MAC game. We're going to take Akron laying 2.5 to Buffalo. Buffalo might be the worst team, one of the worst teams in college football this year. They've just been completely non-competitive, and their offense is horrible. Their defense is horrible. Akron's improving a little bit. They almost beat Indiana on the road last week, and they outgained them to like 200 yards. So it was just like turnovers and stuff that was their downfall. They lost in overtime, actually. So we'll take Akron in the rare time that they're laying points, minus 2.5 against Buffalo for some early action on a Saturday afternoon. So you got to love that. You got to love the full schedule of games. So that would be the perfect game for tonight, but hey, the action doesn't start till November.
Oh, yeah, we're a little bit off from there. Now, I'm trying to look for the Ohio's game. Just checking if they're playing this week. I can't tell if they're playing.
I don't know if they are this week, actually. I think they might be on a bye.
Okay. All right, so let's go to Andy. Let's get your thoughts on this week's action as well.
Yeah, that's a great rundown, a good summary of all the degenerate action. First world problem, I got my summer golf league. The our final tournament is Saturday. It's actually Friday and Saturday. Saturday format is a 2-man scramble, so I will be kind of out of the mix until the late games, but we'll just make all the bets Saturday morning. But one game that John didn't mention is the Trent Dilfer at Tulane. So if you have a reminder to fade Dilfer, and you have extra reason to fade Dilfer because it's Willie Fritz.
Yep.
Now Pratt might still be hurt, so keep an eye on that. But I think their backup quarterback's pretty good too. I'm still bitter with that game against Ole Miss. They should have covered that game. Fuck. I think that was week 2. I had two of my games that I lost were on the bad beat segment. That was great. That was the same. Yeah, that was the same week as the Baylor Texas Tech nonsense.
Oh my God! Yeah, Oregon Texas Tech. Don't get me started on that. That was just disgusting. Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, too soon. But yeah, long term, I was like, let's just get these bad beats over with in September. So when our bowl season comes around, Christmas time, we're not totally getting it, getting coal up the what. But anyway. UAB, Tulane, I agree. I feel like Syracuse and Clemson. Syracuse always kind of plays them tight, so I'm in alignment with John there. Florida, Kentucky. I was going to say, well, Florida might still be sky high over that win with Tennessee, but they did have the Charlotte game in between. So that'll be a toss-up. It's one of those, like, right now I'm looking at Kentucky's favored by 1.5 over. They're at home, unranked, but, 22, I mean, is Florida. Like, it's just peripheral stuff. So if I had to play it now, I probably would go with the Gators, actually, be the fall for that trap. Now, what's funny about A&M Arkansas, again, when I was able to watch TV on Saturday morning, in addition to that Florida State game, I was watching way too much of that A&M Auburn game. And when Wegman got hurt, for some reason, like, A&M played better. And I don't know if that's because Max Johnson, Brad Johnson's son, is actually a better thrower than Wegman. So I don't know. But I probably will take Pittman, Arkansas at home. Just taking out the players, taking out injuries, I would rather take Pittman over Jimbo. So that's just like a Mongo analysis there. Sign me up for the Razorbacks. Yeah, the Friday slate is it's a degenerates buffet. I can see myself already taking North Carolina State, Oregon State. God help me with UTEP, and probably because I hate BYU, I'll probably take Cincinnati, even though the game.
I can't do it with UTEP anymore. I'm out. I did it one more time against UNLV. Like, that was the perfect game to get UNLV after the Vandy win, and they laid a complete egg. So I'm done. I'll take La Tech for this one.
Yeah, it's funny because both those schools played in week 0, and it's sad that we remember. Well, there's only a few teams that play week 0, but I remember both those schools were involved. So yeah, maybe we'll change our mind on that game. But yeah, I agree with you guys. I think Duke. I would take Duke in that Notre Dame game. I would take Arizona versus UW. Now, usually UW struggles against Arizona State down there. I don't have the stats in front of me when it's UW Arizona, but yeah, their coach is a Belichick disciple, Judd Fish, and DeLora. He's not a good guy. He's had some troubles off the field, and he's very reckless. He's very reckless. He's almost like he's got Steven Garcia vibes. Just like some good, some bad. He's got to deal with both. But I'd probably take Arizona in that game. Kansas, Texas. Yeah, I mean I'm looking at the line right now. Texas is giving 16.5. I'll blindly take Kansas. Bad defense be damned. I think Jalen Bean, whatever. I think it's Jalen Bean. Jaden Bean will do enough offensively to hang around. That's a ton of points. Now, Houston, Texas Tech. That's on FS2, like Mike used to be halfway through that program. Talk about two schools that are just totally underwhelming compared to their preseason expectations. That is just buffoon versus buffoon. I don't know who to take in that one. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why I even mentioned that game, but we're just kind of going through it. I mean, it's on Fox Sports too, so it's on. And then,
the Texas Tech hype train is like gone off the tracks very early this year. Like, people were hyping them up, and they're done at this point.
Yeah, that Oregon game could not have been.
Yep.
I mean, the air might have just gone out with that season when that happened. I think they're up 9 with like 6 minutes left. You gotta take home that game. Yeah, LSU Ole Miss. That's a pretty good game. God, Lane versus Brian Kelly. I mean, that's not quite must-watch television, but it's pretty damn close. I don't know. I would probably have to take Lane Kiffin in that spot. I don't know.
That's really, yeah. I have no idea. I'm just gonna go to the wire for me. Like, it's just hanging at -2.5 out there. Brian Kelly and his family only to win by a field goal. Like, I don't know.
It's tricky.
It's really tempting.
They came up a close win against Arkansas too, so it's like I'm not sure what the metric there is for me. Like, that's a tough call for me too. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then lastly, a sneaky game under the radar on the NFL Network is Coastal Carolina versus Georgia Southern. Now you're like, why is that a sneaky game? I mean, because it's two teams that are going to be bowling, and you want to kind of pay attention. So
Yeah.
Yeah, some good Sun Belt games this week. The Sun Belt, like they're a really good conference. Troy and James Madison too. That's another sneaky under the radar game to follow.
And then another Mountain West sneaky game is San Diego State Air Force. When Air Force right now, if you look at Air Force's schedule, I mean they have all winnable games. So San Diego State, then when you hit October, home against Wyoming, at Navy, at Colorado State, then hosting Army, at Hawaii, home against UNLV, and then the showdown at Boise Thanksgiving weekend. So a lot, I'm sure John definitely listened to the Action Network podcast. I think a potential whiff was the Air Force win total because they're, unless they go get hurt, 10 wins is easily attainable for them, 10-2.
Did you say they play Wyoming? Because they always seem to get messed up by their defense. Like Wyoming has the capability to stop the option, and that always gives them some trouble.
October 14th at Air Force.
Okay, all right. Let's just at home this year.
Yeah, Wyoming's got legit altitude, which obviously, so they're always last year I don't know why we're talking about this, but I think it was Wyoming at Fresno. I think it might have been Thanksgiving week, and I took Wyoming, and Fresno State absolutely killed them. Jake Hayner was back, but I think that so now Fresno State's another surprise team. They're in the top 25, and they're playing Nevada. That's a late night CBS sports game, and Nevada's a dumpster fire. I mean, that Nevada-Utah State game, whatever that is, will be fun to watch. But the Fresno State, I think, will go to Wyoming this year, and just out of principle, I will take Wyoming in that game with the altitude and the cold. But what's funny? The Mountain West, Dave, and you're stop talking about the Mountain West, but
no, I'm down with it. I love the Mountain West.
I think the Mountain West is pretty down this year, with the exception to Fresno and Air Force, and we're never really high on Boise, even when Boise is 9-3 or whatever. So it'll be nice to see, because we were all high on Air Force last year, and they didn't do what we thought we were going to do, but so maybe they're just a year behind from.
Yeah, they lost a couple close games, if I remember, last year, and that kind of just ruined their season. But even without their quarterback from last year, Daniels, he's gone. With this, the system is the system. They just plug new guys in there, and their defense is great, and they're just killing teams. So,
although having San Jose State on Friday, that did bother me because
fellas, I do want to point your attention to the total for this Air Force game. So we know the Air Force is one of the option teams, and San Diego State's been known for good defenses, although I don't know if that's true this year. Because they've been getting killed by everybody. 42.5 is the over-under. I know Andy doesn't usually do over-unders, so I'll go to John first. Where do you place that? Who do you think, where does that go, over or under that number?
Over. San Diego State,
yeah.
Their defense is usually good. It's complete shit this year. They can't stop the run. As you saw last week, Air Force put up 40 on San Jose. They can do the same to San Diego State. So even if they get 35, San Diego State can chip in 10. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, Andy, I don't know if you have an opinion on that. Feel free to weigh in on that too.
I won't play it, but if gun to the head, I would take the over.
Yeah, it's an interesting spread, you guys. I see 10.5. I'm yeah, that's an interesting spot. I think you gotta. I'm with you guys though. I think I would lean Air Force in this one. Absolutely. It's just they're home. They've just fallen on hard times. And Ken, you really good call on Boise too. They just don't look right. They look completely different this year. I thought Carolina. Do you have a moment to get into Coastal for a little bit? I think you guys are right. They're going to be fine, but I was a little disappointed. I'm not that surprised that they lost last week or their last game, but I'm kind of curious where they're going to go from there, because definitely not the. A little bit slower start than you would have imagined. I mean, losing at UCLA is not a big deal, but the other loss I was referring to was I was disappointed. What can I say? But do you still feel like those would be solid for a bowl?
Georgia State was the play for sure last Thursday. I mean,
made sense.
Coastal, it's the coaching. I mean, the guy Chadwell is now at Liberty, and they're just killing it. Well, you get this clown Tim Beck, like he's never like done anything as an offensive coordinator anywhere. Like you look at his stats, and it clearly shows. Like it's not the same offense. So I'm
Yeah.
not surprised that they're kind of struggling. I mean, they're still going to they'll be on your TV like on December 22nd in the Frisco Bowl or something, but they're not a Sun Belt contender in my opinion this year.
Can't disagree. And you're right. Georgia State +7 was a really good call for whoever had it. So, all right, let's move ahead to the NFL. I mean,
last question.
Yeah, go for it.
For John, is James Madison still in the probation situation this year?
Yes. So they can't play for the Sun Belt Championship, but they could go to a bowl game if something happens, if they need teams or whatever, they can go this year.
Okay.
Would this be the last year of that arrangement? Because
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's a really good question, Andy. I was wondering about that too.
Yeah, and so the newcomers this year too. Sam Houston's not getting anywhere close to a bowl, but like Jacksonville State could. They could, and they're gonna go through the same shit. Like they're gonna be locked out this year.
Yeah, stinks. Well, listen, I think spending this much time in college is a really wise call because last week's NFL, not really that great. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there were a lot of blowouts. How many teams covered? I think I saw 10 out of 16 teams covered. 10 out of 16 favorites covered pretty easily, actually, last week. So really not that exciting a week. And the games that were close weren't that good. Like the Monday night games, for example, like that was tough to watch. It was tough to watch the Rams struggle to get a third down, like third and short.
Well, they got screwed. That should have been a touchdown on the.
Yeah.
Oh, you caught that a touchdown?
I don't know what the refs were looking at. Like
it looked like Yeah, I agree. I think he was in. Like his foot was over the. Yeah, you're right. I'm surprised they called it that way. Good point. But yeah, like just a lot of that. I'm actually gonna give it to you first for the NFL recap. I mean, there were some good games. I mean, I just think like Chargers Vikings as an example is just like entertaining. It was just so much bad clock management at the end of that game for both teams. The play calling for for the Chargers was just ridiculous. Like, just I can't believe. Like, I think if they lost the game, you kind of wonder if Staley's still coaching today in that scenario. Like, why would you go for it inside your own 28 when you're already up 4 points? Like, anyway, Andy, I'll give it to you for a recap.
So, not to, I will be all about me. Yeah, like I had a better Sunday than Saturday just for gambling reasons.
Oh, okay.
I had a really good NFL day.
Okay,
but,
all right.
One of my chicken shit bet when the worst bet that I didn't make because I don't do a ton of live wagering, but when Minnesota went up 24-21, like halfway through the fourth quarter, I was like, I have to bet San Diego. I have to bet LA live because there's gonna be some more twisting and turning. But I got gun shy and didn't do it. But I mean, that was a referendum, kind of like loser leaves town game. 2-0-2 team featuring two teams that had lofty expectations. The Chargers always are going to have high expectations because of their skill players on offense. And then Minnesota gets, I don't know if Minnesota gets respect per se, but they have talent on offense. Now, a lot of people that do pay attention to the NFL realize that there's going to be some regression because they're not going to win all those one-possession games like they did last year. But with both those teams being 0-2, that was a highlight game. So it was entertaining. Like, if you're someone like Yachts, you're like, I don't want my games to be entertaining. I want my teams to win 35-3. But obviously, if you're a Charger fan, that's never going to be the case because the Chargers are the Chargers. And they find new ways. It's the same script, but the script gets different treatment every year. But it's just wild. Like, nothing phases Yachts at this point. So we were fortunate to have the Chargers. Seattle, Iron Eagle was in Seattle because that was one of those CBS games featuring two NFC teams, and Iron Eagle was there. Should have realized the redhead rifle would have used Feline as a safety blanket, and he cleaned up. I had a lot of fun betting against the Jets. I know John had the Pats as a lock too in the league, but my hot take on that game was like, man, the Patriots offense is still fucking horrendous. Now, maybe Bill was like, we only need to go up 10 and we're fine. But I feel like Bill O'Brien went into like an absolute like snail mode way, way, way too early in that game. But I think Belichick is just like, if we can all we can do is hold the team to like, if our defense can hold the opponent to 17, like we might be able to win our fair share of games. But the way their offense is with like not a lot of skill players, not a lot of explosive plays, not a lot of speed, like everything has to be so perfect for them to not just get in the not to just score 3 when they get to the red zone, but just to get in the red zone takes time. If you ever have to rely on a Patriot team to score with urgency, I mean, it's like watching Northwestern try to move in a hurry up situation. It's just not who they are. So their defense just has to they ask so much out of that defense. But against the Jets, they get away with it because Kyle Wilson is just a total joke. But like not a good day for survivor pool people. I was already out in week 1, but the Cowboys lost. The Ravens lost. The Jaguars lost. The Jaguars have just been a disappointment. What happened to Doug Peterson's nuts? Because, you can forgive them for losing to the Chiefs, but they had the ball in like the Kansas City red zone multiple times in week 2 and came away with no points in all those times. So, and then to lose to Houston at home. And then I read out after the game that Houston has their number for whatever reason, but that was a bad loss by Jacksonville, and now I'm worried about their 8.5 over win total. But I took them because they're playing the AFC. They're in the AFC South, and they're playing the NFC South. So those are like 6-9 arguably winnable ball games. But they need to right that ship. The Bears are a dumpster fire. The Saints Packers game was awfully interesting. Carr got hurt. Winston came in. Jordan Love had a very good second half. The Lions did what they needed to do against the Falcons. Denver. We could pile on Sean Payton. Now let's be honest. It's not like Nathaniel Hackett is Lombardi, but Peyton, like, you're an ass clown. You've always been an ass clown. And for you to make those comments in the summer about how the Denver team in 2022 was like one of the biggest disappointments ever. And careful now. You just gave up 70 points to Miami. And, he's getting angry. He's getting snippy with the Denver press. Like, Denver fans do not care what ass clown did with the Saints, so he's not gonna get like any sort of like hall pass or anything like that. So that was fun to watch, even though I took the Broncos like a fool. I knew I wasn't gonna win that bet, so I was like, let's just see how bad 70 points in the NFL,
crazy
in an NFL game, like, does not happen. Like, that's Division 1 like versus FCS school on September 11th. So it was fun to watch. But in Dallas, I don't know why. Like, why wouldn't I just do like Seattle money line was minus 140, and stupid me did a money line parlay with Seattle, Dallas, and in Kansas City, and that just made it into like plus 110. Like, what a fucking moron. Just take Seattle money line if you're gonna.
I've done that before.
but
You
I
took
don't know.
Arizona with the points too, though. It's like a bet, right?
I
Yeah, so
did
that's
take
what makes
Okay,
Arizona.
it
okay,
worth
okay.
it. Tuesday.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then I'll let John elaborate on some of the Sunday night mishaps, like because in hindsight, the Steelers was the play. I took the Raiders, and man, Josh McDaniels, what is he thinking? And yeah, Dave, it wasn't like a crazy NFL week by any stretch of the imagination. Um, those 4 o'clock games were an absolute disaster because you had a lot of the big markets play on like Thursday. San Francisco was playing on Thursday
Hmm.
against the Giants, and you had the Eagles and the Bengals on Monday. So to borrow Mad Dog's phrase, there's too many mouths to feed when you have to give a game to Amazon and the 2 Monday night games, and you got to make sure there's a decent game. Nance and Romo at 10 a.m. for us, and you got to give Fox a decent game. If they have the big window at 4:25, so
Yeah, very
it's
much.
gonna get worse when the buys happen. So
Oh man, good point. I mean, it's only there's simple math. Like there's only so many games you can have each week. They're not all going to be good, you know. So and it just was bad luck. I mean, Rodgers has a 4-play career with the Jets, so that doesn't help that game. It's just it is what it is. So let's go over to John. Let's get your recap. And I do want to point out a couple upsets. So Andy's pointed out the Cowboys losing outright to Arizona, which was kind of wild. Although Arizona had been playing pretty well, if I may say so myself. Like they were kind of in all these games. Yeah. And then the other one. Oh, and then in Baltimore. I mean, I keep
Yeah, the Colts beat the Ravens, and then the Jags lost to the Texans. Those are the three like big survivor pool, upsets. So
Mhm.
I took Kansas City, so I'm still alive. But I know a lot of people, they went to Dallas or Jacksonville or Baltimore. I don't know why you would go Baltimore after hearing like 8 starters were out. Like that was a pretty good play for the Colts to like at least take the 7.5 at that
oh
point. And
yeah, Minshew.
yeah, Minshew magic. Like he can play. Like you need someone to play like a couple games for you. Like he's a good backup, absolutely. Um, and I guess the only thing I'll say about Arizona is like how like Josh Dobbs, they literally get him out of nowhere, and like he's playing great. Like imagine if the Jets got him instead of Zach Wilson, like they would actually like be a halfway competent team. Like they waited too long. Like the best they can do now is Simeon. Like it's a complete and utter failure by the Jets. We wanted to see Rodgers play all year. We wanted to see them, win 9 or 10 games and then like shit the bed in the playoffs. Like that would have been the best thing to watch for the Jets.
So true.
But we couldn't see it happen, unfortunately. Maybe next year. But like they're just like throwing away the season at this point. Like there's like call Washington and try to get Jacoby Brissett. Call Minnesota and try to get Kirk Cousins. Like at this point, like why not? Like you're just every week they put Wilson out there, they're going to like lose the team. Like you're already reading reports of that, like in the locker room. That they're it happened last year. Like all the players wanted to have Mike White in there over Wilson, so it's just not a good situation with the Jets at this point, and it's not going to continue to be. I mean, you're going to see, by the middle of the second quarter on Sunday night, you're going to see like 100 shots of Taylor Swift because it's going to be like 31-0 Kansas City because like how else is that game going to go? Like what are the Jets going to do against the Chiefs? And getting both New York teams in prime time this week, so that should be fun.
Brutal.
How are you
Giants,
gonna play that game, John? You gonna do like Chiefs team total over? Like I'm gonna have
I
to
don't
play
know.
it somehow.
Yeah, I might just lay the points. Like how the Jets. All right, the Jets get like 14. Like the Chiefs can score 24 points on anyone. I don't care how good the Jets defense is. Like that, that's yeah, as long as it's like 9.5, I'll lay it. If it gets to like 11 or something, maybe we'll do something different, like with a teaser or something. But yeah, you got to play the Chiefs. Um, so as for the other games, I feel like we talked about this last year, like early in the season, like the play isn't great. It's because like the O lines are still gelling, like you got new coordinators and quarterbacks and all these new pieces in place, and they basically have no preseason anymore because like the starters don't play, and it's just like for the second string guys, and there's just no like the first month of the season is basically like almost an extended preseason. So you're not going to see great play in the first month of the season, and we've definitely seen that. But so I think it'll get better for sure as the year moves on, and we saw that last year. But yeah, some of these games this weekend were not great. You know, I will talk about the Packers. Like, very, very pleased with how they came back and won that game. I've been very impressed with Jordan Love. Like, he definitely like looks poised. Like, okay, he had some bad throws, but like it didn't like rattle him like it would maybe like Zach Wilson, for example. Like, he just comes right back and like they go down the field again and he makes the plays. And they Matt LaFleur did the analytics thing down 14 and they end up winning the game in regulation. So that was a good move out of him. And they did that without even having Aaron Jones or Christian Watson. Like, they're arguably their two top offensive weapons, and they should have them back tomorrow night. I'm thinking that they were saved for this game, like, hold them out for the home division game on Thursday night. So we'll see tomorrow, but that would be a huge boost if they can come back to that game against the Lions. Yeah, the Jags Texans game, and actually the only reason I didn't go with this game in Survivor is because I lost on it last year. Andy, you mentioned it. Like, the Texans beat them in Jacksonville last year. So Houston's been impressive with CJ Stroud. I got to give him credit. He's looking really good. Putting up
Tank
some good,
Dell.
yeah, Tank Dell, Houston. Yeah, he went from Houston to Houston, putting up some good fantasy numbers. Like, they got something going there. So it might not translate to like a lot of wins this year, but they definitely have something building. The Bills destroyed the Commanders, so like the Sam Howell hype train, like that ended after 1 week. The Bears are a disaster. We know that. Yeah, Carolina. Actually kind of annoyed that they didn't cover that game.
Same.
I took them with the points.
Should
They
have.
really should have. Who knows what Bryce Young will turn out to be, but he's clearly not better than Dalton at the moment. So when the spread didn't move when they announced that Dalton was playing, like, I was all over the Panthers, and they really should have covered. Unfortunately, they had I think it was a turnover or something in the second half that kind of like broke up the streak of like scores going back and forth. But I saw Young is going to play again this weekend, so I'm back. Like, give me Minnesota like minus whatever to win in Carolina and like get their first win, because he's clearly not up to speed right now with that offense. And I think Frank Reich is kind of a clown too. And I think Dalton just kind of manages the offense as a veteran. But yeah, I'll be on the Vikings if Young is indeed playing. Yeah, we touched on the Chargers and Vikings. Like, someone had to lose. Unfortunately for the Chargers, like, I don't know what the Vikings were doing at the end of the game. I was screaming at my TV, spike the ball, spike the ball. Like, what the hell is Cousins doing? Like, they had it set up perfectly after that first down. Like, it's 30 seconds. You spike the ball on first down, and then you have three more chances at the end zone, or even just get up to the line and throw a fade pass, like a fade to the end zone. Like, that's all you had to do. And like, they wasted 20 seconds, and what a disaster. Like, Staley is so lucky that they mishandled that at the end of the game. I don't think it was a terrible call day for him to go for it on 4th and 1. It's just the play call that they ran, like fullback dive up the middle when you've run for like 30 yards all game. And Herbert is having one of the best games of his career. Just let him throw the ball if you're just going to go for it there. Like, the play call made no sense. And then speaking of no sense, Josh McDaniels Sunday night.
Sunday night. Yeah.
Like, thank you, Josh McDaniels, for like kicking that field goal and clinching the under. Because I had that. I did.
My dad.
did bet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, what are you doing? Like, you're down. Okay, I get it. You need another possession. Like, even if you get the touchdown in the 2, you need another possession. I get that, but like, why not go for the touchdown when you're there? Like, it makes no sense. Like, you have 2 minutes left. You're down 8 points. You have one timeout, and you're kicking a field goal from the 5-yard line. Hey, you know what? Like, the Vegas team is turning into, it's just like a neutral site game. It's like 60-40 for the other team. Like, you saw the picture of like all the Steeler fans with the terrible towels there, and it's kind of sad because like almost every team on their schedule is short of like the Chargers. Basically, it's going to be a home game for the other team. Like, the Packers are playing there in a couple weeks on Monday night. Like, it's going to be full of Green Bay fans. Like, I wish I was going. Unfortunately, I cannot justify 2 trips to Vegas in the span of a month, but wish I was there. So yeah, that was a disaster. Like, they're going nowhere. And yeah, the Monday night games were kind of Burrow did enough to kind of gut it out and get that win. So good for them to kind of get their season back on track. And the Eagles, they just dominate on the line of scrimmage. I mean, the Bucs they couldn't stop the run and they couldn't get anything going on offense because they were just on Mayfield the entire game. So, yeah, the Eagles and Niners are definitely, right now, like I know it's very, very early, but like those two teams, like just put them in the NFC Championship game right now, and let's see them go at it healthy, like a healthy Purdy, playing the whole game, and like the Eagles with their healthy team. Like let's see how it shakes out. I'm still not buying into Dallas just because of this last game we saw. Like if you can lose to Arizona on the road as a 12-point favorite, like I'm not seeing them beating the top two. Like they might beat the Eagles once in the regular season, but are you really going to trust them to beat the Eagles in the playoffs? No, I'm not.
Dallas is always a great team to fade in January. Traditionally,
absolutely.
Against the Niners, whoever it is.
Yeah, Mike, McCarthy in the mix. Like, yeah, they're easy fade in the playoffs. So, yeah, it was an interesting week. Like we talked about. Like I said before, I think the play will improve as we kind of go deeper in the season. And yeah, we have interesting schedule coming up. We introduced the London games into the mix this Sunday. So you West Coast folks, set your alarms for Jags Falcons. Desmond Ridder being exposed to the London fans on Sunday morning.
Oh, I'm gonna be up at 3 because Ryder Cup.
Oh
London.
Yeah, right.
So they start. That's 3 a.m. my time, and I'll be that fucking weirdo to get up for the single.
You know what? You might as well just pull an all. Well, I was gonna say pull an all nighter, but like the West Coast games there will end at like 10. So it is. Yeah, it's like 1 here. So yeah, you could get a little like 4 hours of sleep or 5 hours of sleep,
or even just TiVo the first like hour and a half.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Do something.
I love the dedication, Andy. That's pretty cool. One note about the London game coming up on Sunday is that there's also going to be an alternate broadcast on ESPN Plus where they transform the characters into Toy Story characters. So I think there's some kind of like AI or computer generated wizardry going on. I saw
that. Who are they trying to market that to? Like, are 3-year-olds like watching the game and like trying to understand it? Like, I don't understand. Like, who is that broadcast for? Like, I can understand the Nickelodeon one.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like I can get that one, but like what Toy Story? Like what the hell? Like they're not going to be real people, like real players. Like I don't get it. Like
I'm just wondering what it's going to look like. I'm actually really curious about it. Hopefully I'm up early enough to put that on for a little bit just to see what it is because I don't even know what it's going to look like.
It's also wild that basically the Jags are basically setting up shop in London for like half a month.
Yeah, they're playing the following week too, right?
Yeah.
They're playing like back to back.
Yep.
Yeah, the Bills.
Well, what's interesting about the ESPN Plus game is that's the one like an extra game for them. So usually the second team for ESPN is like Fowler, Chris Fowler, and Orlovsky and Riddick. So they do like the B game essentially on Monday night. So if they're gonna be doing that game, then Fowler can't do college football this weekend, I'm assuming. I haven't even looked at the announcer schedules.
I thought I heard him make a point of that he was not going to get to do that game during the other game on Monday, but I'm not sure. So it's either going to be.
So maybe they're going to bring in like Steve Levy for just this one game.
Yeah,
or something.
that's what I was thinking.
He was doing it last year.
Yeah. I could go over 506. We probably figured out 506 because 506 would tell us.
I'm punching it up right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 506.
So,
yeah.
Well, unless it's wrong, it's saying Sunday 9:30 a.m. Atlanta, Jacksonville, Fowler, Riddick, Orlovsky.
Wow.
Unless, do you think they're doing it remotely?
Never. I don't. That would be a huge stain on ESPN. Like, come on, you're paying all this money for a game for these games, and you're gonna do the broadcast from the studio. I don't
now,
so.
Well, I'm gonna cross-reference with the college slate and see who Herb Street's doing it with.
We'll see you would assume it's like Notre Dame and Duke because that's where game day is.
Yeah. Okay. So they just brought in the Fowler 2.0. Reese Davis is doing Notre Dame Duke.
Interesting.
Look at that. Wow. Thanks, Andy. That's awesome. Okay. So that answers it. All right. Well, that makes sense.
Fowler actually honestly probably is upset with that trade-off. I mean, if I had to choose what game to call,
yeah,
I would pick the Notre Dame Duke game.
Absolutely.
Well, that's karma. He should have been doing the women's tennis instead of Texas, Alabama.
That's true.
Hey, interesting. The historic women's tennis, Coco Gauff with a big win, right? So yeah, good point.
He was there for the men's final. I had it on mute, but I didn't have any sound to it. Okay, so he at least saw the 24th Djokovic major.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that. I'm like, I gave it a few points. I'm like, no. Like, I'm off it. I'm just like,
I
I
don't
don't
know if
need to
you
see
guys
this.
bet tennis, but like Djokovic minus 3.5 spread, like game spread, that was the easiest ever in that final. It's
Yeah.
just, I don't
It's
know.
just a shame that
Yeah.
Alcaraz couldn't have been there. Like, I just thought he had more of juice than he did. I was really disappointed in.
Djokovic killed me Wimbledon because I bet him
Yeah.
live. So I
Yeah,
doubled down
boy.
on Djokovic live.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a double. That was a
Ooh.
rough day because I went to the casino that night. Oh, that was a rough. That was a rough.
No, I hear you. I hear you. It really was a great U.S. Open. It's just too bad that the ending of it wasn't better in the men's side, at least. It was great in the women's side, but the men's side, man, I was really looking for a good final. Oh well, good stuff. I didn't realize you guys were so dialed into that. That was pretty cool. Yeah, because my dad and I were watching that too. So let's look at this week's action. Here we go. Back to the new slide. Let's see what we got. Okay, so yeah, this is a great week. Look at this. You got Lions Packers tomorrow. Is that tomorrow? Yeah, it is tomorrow. Tomorrow night.
Yep.
8:15 p.m. Eastern on Amazon Prime Video. I love it. Let's go. You have Dolphins Bills, which, gosh, I think this could be the game of the week. I mean, really, either of those two could be the game of the week. These are really, really good matchups. Like last year, Dolphins Bills in Miami. The Miami.
Skylar Thompson.
Amazing game with what a wacky finish, right? So I can't wait for that one. You got Ravens versus Browns at the same time on CBS. Commanders, Eagles. Probably shouldn't be on this chart, but I think the Commanders could be very gritty and gutty here. I'm going to keep an eyeball on the score because there could be an upset. I don't know. We'll see. Raiders Chargers is going to be very entertaining. Both teams are so bad on defense, and both teams had terrible coaching. I think this is going to be a very entertaining game for all sorts of reasons. It should be really fun on CBS. If you happen to get that game in your region, we will over here, of course, because it's a Charger home game. But Patriots, Cowboys. Annie, I would love to hear your thoughts on this game. I don't know what to think of this. This is a tough call for me. I just don't know what to think. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that game. I would think the Cowboys would win that one. We'll see. So let's go back to John. Let's get your thoughts on this week's action. Lots to cover here.
I love how you left out the Monday and Sunday night games because there's really not much juice there. Unless Taylor Swift brings the juice for the Chiefs games now if it's a blowout, so we can do a shot every time they show her in the press box, so they can be dead by the end of the game. But yeah, very very good game tomorrow night. Like the Lions and Packers have separated themselves from the other two teams at the moment. So what's interesting with the schedule is they also play on Thanksgiving. So like I thought the NFL are giving them 2 short weeks like that. I guess they can do that now. I don't know, but like I said, we got to check the status of Watson and Aaron Jones for tomorrow's game. They already ruled out a couple of their offensive linemen. Bakhtiari's out again. He never plays. Elton Jenkins is out. Another offensive lineman, but they didn't play the last game. The Packers' offensive line is usually solid, but missing those guys will hurt. But the key here is Jones and Watson, and then Jair Alexander didn't play last game. We'll see if he suits up tomorrow. But yeah, should be a fantastic game. Obviously, I'm rooting for Green Bay. We'll see if they can get the job done at home. It should be a good one. And then Miami and the Bills. Like, can we do like an instant flex this one into Sunday night instead of the Chiefs and the Jets? Like, this would be the game to get on prime time. I got to take the Bills here. Like, if there's any time to fade a team, it's like after they score 70 points. I mean, they're as high as they can be. So we got to go with the Bills in this matchup. But this should just be a fantastic game. McDaniel is proving that he looks like really nerdy and analytical, and he probably is, but like he is a heck of a play caller. He just has that offense just rolling. And Tua is throwing the deep ball. Like, that's so many weapons. Like this guy from Texas A&M, A-Chain, 4 touchdowns. Like, he's just a beast. They have so many playmakers, but I think that it's the letdown game of all letdown games. Like, I know it's a division game, but like I said, like after scoring 70 points, like how could you not fade a team after that kind of performance? So we'll go with the Bills in this spot. Ravens and Browns should be like quite the slugfest. I mean, the Browns legitimately like have the best defense, I think, in the NFL, at least to date. Like, we'll see as the season goes along, but they haven't given up anything. The only reason the Steelers won that game a couple weeks ago was because of Watson's turnovers. Like they had to pick six for a touchdown, the fumble for a touchdown. The Steelers did have that one long pass that they broke, but other than that, like they couldn't do anything. Neither could the Titans, neither could the Bengals in Week 1. So we'll see the rate what the Ravens can do here. You have to check the status of all the Ravens injuries. This is kind of similar as it was last week. I mean, the Browns probably have to be a play, but I feel like under is probably a good bet here. I don't see how either team is going to do much on offense. I mean, I guess, like turnovers and stuff, that's kind of what you have to worry about, like putting this total over, but that should be like a division slugfest for sure. The Commanders and Eagles, like the Commanders have given the Eagles some trouble. I remember they beat their or broke their undefeated start to the season last year. So we'll see if they can do anything this time around. Not counting on it, but hey, it's a division game. Like really anything can happen. Completely agree with you, Dave, on the Raiders and Chargers. Jimmy G he's playing, right? Like I saw he had gotten hurt, but is that the word that
I should
in?
check
I
on
think
that.
he had like concussion protocol, but
Okay.
I think he's
Well,
trending to playing.
Yeah, if he's in, like I'll take the 6 points for sure. Like the Chargers do nothing but play like wild games. I agree with you. So we'll go with Vegas and a high scoring game. I'm with you. I have no idea about Patriots Cowboys. You'd think that Dallas will be ready to play for this game. Like any other reasonable team, you would say, all right, they're going to be ready for this one after what happened in Arizona. But I don't know with McCarthy. It just they could lay another egg. Or like,
Yeah.
you could see like Bill coming up with a great defensive game plan to like take away Pollard and like trying to make Dak beat you, and it could end like 20-17, like Patriots. You could easily see that scenario, or you could see like 31-10 Dallas too. Like it, honestly, I don't know with this one. So we'll let it to smarter people than me to try to figure out who's going to win that. And then as for the other matchups, yeah, we talked about the London game. You got to figure the Jags can win by a field goal. Like Desmond Ritter he is not good. Like I don't care what anyone says. Like it's like you have an offense that's like a Ferrari, and you have Ritter who's like a broke down Toyota Camry or something. Like you can't, you got
Yep.
Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and London and like this great offensive line, and then you have this guy who just like really can't play at this point. So I don't know. You got to figure that Jacksonville's familiar with the travel situation, and they've done this so many times. And Ritter not being at home, I think you got to lay the 3 with the Jags. But to get back on track, I already talked about Minnesota. I think I like them against Carolina laying the points. Pittsburgh at Houston's interesting. I don't know. I could see a lot of people falling for the Houston kind of like angle that they've been playing so well and, getting points at home. But I don't know. I have to think about that one. Same with the Colts and Rams. The Colts are actually a slight favorite at home over the Rams. If Minshew plays, I probably would go with the Colts here. But I don't know. That one that's a tough game to pick. Yeah, some of these I'm not really quite sure. I have to do a little more thinking, like Bengals and Titans. Bengals favored by 2.5. Like Vrabel home dog is always an option. Bucks and Saints. Winston's playing, so I don't know. That one just might be a pass. Arizona coming off the big win, going to San Francisco. San Francisco laying 2 touchdowns. I mean, probably San Francisco's the move there. You have to play it, but like, why get involved with anything with that many points? So yeah, a lot of interesting games this week.
Broncos Bears.
That is
my God,
really
how could I
tough.
forget?
Oh.
Broncos Bears.
Ooh.
Oh, that's rough. Like, you got to say Broncos. I think begrudgingly, you have to say the Broncos.
Probably.
I feel like
Yeah.
Peyton can at least put together an offensive game plan to score on that horrible Bears defense, where I can't say the same thing for Justin Fields doing anything because he isn't. They're just a complete mess. So if I have to pick it, give me the Broncos. But wow, what a shit bowl.
Truly. Like, you take the team that got blown out by like 35 points at halftime. I mean, that was down 35 points at halftime in Kansas City. You take the team that was blown out 70-20.
They lost by 50, and they're laying 3 the following week on the road.
I don't know what that says about the Bears. Obviously, it's not a good mark on them at all. They kind of deserve it, though. It's like they've been rough. All right, so Andy, let's get your thoughts on this week's action. We'll go back to the board and give our look at.
Well, yeah, a teaser with the Chiefs and the Eagles. What could possibly go
Oh
wrong?
no.
I'm just, oh no. But then, like in high, you'd be like, why don't you just might as well take the Chiefs given the 9.5. But oh no, I can already see myself teasing like the Pats up to 13 and Chiefs down to 3. But who knows? Yeah, there's no respect for that Monday night Giant Seahawks game, but that's a pick 'em. I'll definitely take Geno. Francesa guaranteed the Giants were going to win this one, but we'll see. Mike, to his credit, when he was doing over unders with Russo on Mad Dog a couple weeks ago, he loved the Texans as an over, so they're trending. But to John's point, I would probably take the Steelers in that game. I would also probably take the Jaguars. I think, yeah, on paper, this should be a get right game for Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with the Desmond Ritter breakdown. He just might not be it. Despite despite Atlanta, like I like their coach. I like the running backs. They got decent receivers. They just maybe if they could get Mariota back, Mariota actually technically still the backup. I have no idea, but maybe they just need to fly with Ritter. I don't know, where is Mariota these days.
I think he's with the Eagles.
Let's see. He is with the Eagles. Yep.
Or I think he's with Philly.
Yeah, he is with the Eagles. Yeah, confirmed. Just punched it up. I think I would probably take the Saints in this game against Tampa because I think even if Winston plays, you know, I don't think Winston's terrible. I think Winston actually has ability, and that defense is really good. And we saw what a good defense can do against Tampa. Like, I was shocked. Like, I was shocked at how porous that Tampa Bay protection was. I know it's not like Baker is like this mobile quarterback anyway, but he couldn't do anything. Andy's Baker Mayfield. So I would take the Saints in that game. Yeah, Buffalo, Miami. It's weird because I think Miami historically is horrible against the Bills in Buffalo. And so as much as I want to win at Buffalo and be like this, it's not the same old Miami Dolphins. We can win up there. To John's point, to you guys' point, like they just scored 70. An encore performance. It's gonna be hard, but I don't know. I'd lean Buffalo, even though Allen has a propensity for nonsense and throwing the ball everywhere. And Miami offensively looks as good as any team. And Waddle's back. Like that Buffalo defense is very opportunistic. So they could force Tua into some questionable throws and then I don't think Mozart and the other guy are gonna go off like and score 4 touchdowns apiece or whatever, or 200. One guy had 200 yards and the other guy had 4 touchdowns. That ain't happening. But that'll be an entertaining game. I'll bet on one of those teams obviously by Sunday morning. And then Dave, you were asking about that Pats Cowboys game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the last time they played about 3 years ago, it was a really close game. And the Patriots, I think it might have gone to overtime. You'll have to look that up. But that game was in New England. I'm pretty sure it did go in overtime. But okay, Mariners got out of it. I expect Bill to have some sort of game plan to slow down the Cowboys offense to a certain degree. Now let's not forget that going into last week against Arizona, like everyone was just like last year, everyone was singing praises that the Cowboys defense was like the best in the world, and Chandler Parsons is incredible. But so yeah, they could have their way with Mac Jones and company. The one thing that I'd like to see out of the Patriots is something more out of the running game. That's been a little bit of a disappointment through 3 games this year. Watching the Patriots, it's not a day at the beach because you're rooting for the other team to muff a punt. You're rooting for the Patriots defense to create a fumble in the red zone, and those are like unlikely events, but you need those things to happen so Mac Jones can have the ball. They can have a short field, so they're guaranteed a 3-point field goal attempt. Because, like I said earlier in this program, for them to start at the 20 and to get into the other team's red zone, they don't have chunk plays. It is methodical, and everything has to be in perfect rhythm. And they're not going to beat a team like Dallas doing that. So they're going to have to expect a standout performance defensively. They're going to have to create turnovers, maybe have a good kick return or punt return in the special teams department. But that's probably that. If I were to bet that game, I would take the Patriots, and I expect them to lose a close one because they've had 3 close games this year. They've all come down to basically the last possession, so I don't see that changing. And then we'll have to watch that LOL Jets Chiefs game on Sunday night, probably on mute, so I don't have to listen to Collinsworth. And tomorrow's game is sneaky good. I have, for selfish reasons, I have like Laporta, Goff, and St. Brown all on different fantasy teams.
Oh, wow.
So I'll be root for them, but maybe just to like hedge like my emotions, maybe take Green Bay. So Green Bay wins. Lions get some offensive production. Everything works out well. Lions lay an egg offensively, so my fantasy teams suck, but the Green Bay wins. Good for the betting. So I think that's what I'll do, like a clown.
Sounds like a good. Yeah, you got a good situation there for that game. That's pretty good. So thanks for the rundown, Andy. I appreciate that as well. So all in all, yeah, a very, very good setup for the NFL this week. I'm really looking forward to a lot of this. And I really wanted to just mention, going back to the Chiefs game, my first instinct was to take the Jets because the defense has been playing so well. But after that game, I'm like, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up. And this is kind of what's been happening in previous matchups against the Chiefs anyway. Like, the Jets have often routinely been trounced in these matchups. I'm like, why would I think it would go differently this time? It's a good call on your guys' part to like just lean towards Kansas City, if not take him out, take him with the points. So that's about it for our show today. But I did want to ask quickly about how things are going. And John, actually, I wanted to circle back on your trip. Like, how did your trip to Vegas go? You mentioned a little bit of it in text, but were there any other highlights from your trip overall?
Yeah, unfortunately, my traveling companion ended up getting COVID beforehand, so it turned out to be like a solo trip. So I felt very bad for her, but
yeah,
it was so last minute. It's like I wasn't going to cancel all my plans, and she was like, "Oh yeah, go for it. Like go ahead and have fun." So definitely interesting being there like by yourself. It wasn't. It probably saved me like from gambling a lot for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a nice hit on 3-card poker on the bonus spot. Like I had a pair of 8s in my hand, and the dealer also had 2 8s, so I made the 4 of a kind that combination. So that paid 50-1. So that basically recouped everything that I had previously lost before that, and that was my last day on the trip. So that was perfect.
Wow.
So I was able to just like stop gambling at that point. Like I went and watched Monday Night Football, and then I came home the next day basically. In terms of gambling, with like basically the same amount that I left with. Obviously, like I had separate for like food and drinks and whatever. But so yeah, lots of construction there for sure. You wouldn't be able to tell like they're having a Formula One race there like in a month. Like I have no idea what the hell's going on. Like they're like they're literally gonna like do the race down the like the Las Vegas Strip. Like, good luck, like like trying to like get people to not go there or like to stay in their hotels. Like, I have no idea how that's gonna work. And like the same guy wins every week, so I don't know what the point is of like clogging a major city for for the. It's a cool idea, but just like I
Yeah.
don't think it was well thought out. So we'll see how the. Well, I'm sure we'll see like pictures and stuff of like the logistical nightmare that's going to turn into in about a month or so. But yeah, Vegas is always interesting. And then like staying at MGM where they had like the hacking situation made
Yeah.
some things interesting for sure. But hey, you
Yeah.
know what? It's first world problems for sure. So
Yeah.
it was a good time. But yeah, it was a good trip. So thank you for asking. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely looking forward to going back again.
I love it. I'm glad it worked out. Yeah, I was, definitely a concern when I heard about that the hacking incident. Gosh, it's just like wow, It's like, all of our information has been exposed. Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
crazy.
Yeah, Andy, you had a time in New England. I saw it on Instagram. Like, if you've got time to get into that at all, I would love to hear some of the highlights from that trip too, because like it looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of golf. It was a
Hmm.
wedding. It was driving through New England, eating a lot of, New England themed seafood like lobster and fried clams and drinking a lot. And there is a casino just like a couple miles north of Boston that's a facsimile of the Encore. And I've been there 3 times, and each time I've been, I've lost way too much than I should have. But so the Encore is dead to me. It is dead to me. Maybe the one in Vegas is too. But I was gonna ask John because I in 2.5 weeks, or basically 16 days from now, I'll be going to Vegas for Patriots Raiders. I'll be meeting some of my East Coast buddies. Um, how long is the walk from MGM to Allegiant? Is that how you got to the
Oh
building?
no, I Ubered. It was a cheap Uber. It was like $15. It's really close, but yeah, I don't know. You could walk it,
Oh,
but
I
it's just
forget. It must have been hot as balls. So
yeah,
that's
yeah. It was pretty bad. The first day I got there was really nice. It was just in the 80s, but like the days got it got up into the hundreds. Like the next few days, I was not walking that distance. Like if you stay at Mandalay Bay, you can easily walk over to the stadium. But MGM, it's still worth doing the Uber scenario.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's why Mandalay. Because I'm sure, because I'm staying at Planet Hollywood, it's like the middle of the strip, and I'm
Yep,
sure there's a way. If I don't Uber, probably Uber is like you could find that you could take like the tram
yep,
to
yep,
Mandalay, and then from Mandalay go to Allegiant.
yep. Exactly.
So I don't know if you've checked it out, but I'm gonna check it out at least on that Saturday because most of the crew is staying at Circa, which is downtown, and I didn't
Yep.
want to first world preference. Like I didn't want to stay at Circa. I'll go to Circa and I'll Uber there, but I'd rather be like on the strip for all the other
Yeah.
stuff, especially on that Sunday. So I will check out Circa. Have you gone there yet?
Yes, I went last year, and the sports book is just amazing. I didn't even get to the outside, like the swim, the stadium swim thing. I didn't get up to that because I think you might have to be staying there. I don't think like randos can walk up. Honestly, I didn't even look into it, but yes, I did check out the sports book, and it was awesome. And then while I was there, I met Sean King, who's on the
I
Vissen
remember. Yeah, I
network.
saw the tweet. I remember
Yeah,
that.
that was really cool. I met him and his partner that he does a show with. That was a real thrill. They were super nice guys. Like I could have just it would have been just like us bullshitting about sports now. Like that's how what I was doing with them. They were really cool. So that was awesome.
That's funny. You know what's funny? I don't. It's not the Hilton anymore, but I don't know what it's called.
The
But
Westgate.
Westgate. Yeah, it's the Westgate. Like that sports book. I don't know what it's like now, but for the longest time, that was like a very cool sports book to go to because it's old, obviously, but it's in terms of sheer size and screens, it's still held up. I'm not sure what that status is now. Dave, have you been to Westgate lately?
It's been a while. Like I haven't been there. It's probably been at least 10 years. Maybe 10 years. Well, it's 2023. Yeah, it's probably been about 10, maybe 8 to 10 years at this point. But the last time I was there, it was pretty cool. It was still pretty good. Like, they've made a lot of it. They have made a lot of improvement now. So like now their projection system is like much better. So it's pretty. Apparently, I'm told it's pretty solid still. It's just kind of hard to get to at this point because it's off strip and
Yeah,
everything.
I haven't been there. I haven't been to that one, but
Yeah.
last year when I went, I stayed at the Paris, and then they were having like construction down in their sports book, and it really annoyed me because like you couldn't really there was just like one guy at a kiosk to take a bet, and you had to go watch the games elsewhere. Well, they finished it, and I was there last week. It's really really nice.
Ooh,
That's a good spot to be in, the Paris sports book. But
nice.
there was so much rebranding. Like they're like, oh yeah, you got to go down to the Horseshoe. I'm like, what the fuck's the Horseshoe? Well, apparently the Horseshoe is the old Valleys,
Hmm.
and then Hooters is now Oyo Casino. I went over there for some cheap blackjack, like $5. So there's if you want some cheap like table games, that's where you need to hit is the Oyo Casino. It's across the street from MGM. You can walk right over, and it's like $5 blackjacks. So there you go.
Cool. Good tips. Yeah, I'm gonna be over there next month for TwitchCon. At least I'm scheduled to. Well, hopefully it'll all hold up. But so that'll be late November. I think that's after your Patriot game, Andy. Like when are the Patriot games? Like mid October, early October?
Yeah, October. So Friday the 13th. So yeah, Sunday, October 15th.
Okay.
And the slate for college football on October 14th. I'm not sure like what all the crazy games are, but Oregon UW is that day. That'll be a big thing.
Nice. Yeah, and everything I know about Circa is the sports book is amazing. John's right. Like I would if you had the time to get over there at some point, definitely do it because
that's the plan. Because like I said,
Mhm.
some of my buddies actually staying there, so that'll be the plan that Saturday to spend most of the daytime there.
Pretty cool. Well, I guess that's going to do it for us, everybody. But thank you so much for getting into all these scenarios. Good stuff tonight, really, honestly. Good luck on all your action. Boy, so much. We really didn't cover a lot. So, yeah, hope you enjoy the Ryder Cup too. I mean, that sounds like a great time. I don't think we're going to have enough time to do the other cup that was like about a week ago. But I hope you did well in that too. But yeah. Thanks. Enjoy your weekend. It's been good to catch up with you again.
All right, sounds good. See you guys.
All right. Good luck, everyone.
Thanks.
We'll do it soon.
For sure.
Again soon.
Back at you, Andy. That's
All right.
Andy and John. Peace. Yeah, that was really good stuff. Really fun to do this again. It really has been a while. Like the last podcast we did was part 2 of our college preview. So that was like late August. So we've been off the podcast feed for a month. So it's nice to be back. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Dave Medina. You can find me on all the platforms as Davey's Eating a Sandwich because Davey is my nickname. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you missed any part of it, the replay will be right here. Or if you're listening to it on podcast, just rewind it. That's probably right. If you're watching us live, or even if you're not, I'd like to invite you to our Twitch page, twitch.tv/Davey's Eating a Sandwich. If you are watching live, we're gonna play some golf with your friends in just a few minutes. And we also have a really cool contest that I want to tell you about. You can vote for some really adorable looking bears, as furnished by the national parks, and voting is starting tomorrow. Or if you're watching this on Thursday, voting is starting today. So we'll tell you more about it over on Twitch. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, twitch.tv/Davey's Eating a Sandwich if you want to keep following us there too. And you can find Davey's Eating a Sandwich on all the other platforms as well. All sorts of nonsense. But we'll be back here hopefully next week for another Sandwich Corner. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time. And like I said, specifically, we'll see you on Twitch in just a few minutes. Thanks again.